There are two types of traders when it comes to perceiving trading mistakes. On one side of the spectrum, we have the hyper-accountable type, and on the opposite side of the spectrum, we have the false defame type. And these two type of traders have completely different internal and external responses, behaviors, but the result is the same, which is inability to learn from trading mistakes. This is because in order for you to learn from a trading mistake, you need to first be able to hold a non-judgmental view of your trading, of your mind, and this is something that's practicable with mindfulness, with ability to detach from the outside situations and from your mind. So for the hyper-accountable trader, it's quite impossible to look at the situation from a non-judgmental view. There's a lot of judgment, a lot of self-blame and self-criticism and guilt. But then for the false defame mode, they don't even take into account the situation because they have zero responsibility about it. It's like it happened to somebody else when it really happened with them, but it's none of their business. So getting here a little bit more specific into each type, let's start with the hyper-accountable style. And this style needs to remove the internal clutter, the internal interference. This is the self-blame we're talking about, the guilt and the self-criticism. And what happens is that the actual perception about the mistake that these traders hold is worse, is a bigger of an obstacle than the mistake itself, which extends the consequences of the mistake when it shouldn't. When you make a mistake, you take your lesson and you move forward. These traders it's impossible for them to do this. But the truth is that the market doesn't care about your perception of mistakes. It just happens, it affects your performance somehow, but then you're the one who decides how that mistake gonna influence your further performance. So you're mainly doing it to yourself. So in order to be able to reset yourself after each mistake, there's two main skills this hyper-accountable style needs to achieve. And the first one is self-compassion. Self-compassion is pretty much about shutting down the negative, the toxic self-talk. Like, I am stupid, I am dumb, why did I do this mistake? And instead of asking why, in order to have this self-compassionate approach, just ask yourself how. Where are you feeling the discomfort? In what part of the body? Where's the tension? And get curious about how you're feeling, the feelings you're having at the moment. Now, the second skill is acceptance of imperfection. And this is removing the pressure you put on yourself a lot. And to be able to do this, you gotta recognize that mistakes will keep on happening. This is a performance skill, so there's no pattern, there's no end goal, no end result, and you will keep on progressing. And that mistakes actually, what they do is funnel your way to success by excluding other things that don't work for you, or by giving you lessons that you can then build this path. Now, when it comes to the false defame style, this is a more curious style, and we tend to think that the hyper-accountability is a little bit better than the false defame mode because at least they acknowledge the mistakes, but they're actually really in opposite sides of the spectrum, and they are both very, very negative. And when it comes to this style, the hyper-accountable style actually needs to give some doses of self-blame to this type of trader because they have none. So one thing these traders need to understand is that fault is not the same as responsibility. These are two concepts that it's very easy to confuse them, but we need to distinguish them. So as long as your trading account is yours and it's you who's clicking the buy and the sell button, it's both your fault and your responsibility what you do, right? But then we have those incidents like a power outage or the electricity falls down, and it's not your fault that you couldn't keep up the trade, you couldn't run the trade, and perhaps you had a loss, but from who is the trading account and who cares about the trading account? You, right? So it's your responsibility to deal with that situation further on. So the market couldn't care less. Avoiding responsibility might be your coping mechanism to dealing with trading mistakes and to avoid failure. So if this is the case, then you need to rapidly change your perception about mistakes. And this is exactly what I do with the traders I coach daily. We understand what are the symptoms, and you probably are able to do the same. You know what are the symptoms of your trading problems, but We dig deep to work with a cause, which most of the times is an underlying belief that's stored in the subconscious that's making them create this inner conflict while they trade and this resistance. So if you're committed to your trading improvement and you're serious about starting a coaching relationship, you can see if you qualify in the form in the Substack post, and you will get an email from me with the answer soon. Peaceful trading, Sara.